This is great. Okay, this is so good because welcome first off to Improv on and off the topic, capital T. I'm Shannon Stott, and usually I have a box under my thing, and it looks like this, but it doesn't. It looks like this today. I just realized I was like, why do you see so much of my anyway? What's great is that I get to see backstage, and I sent Emily Arnold a message, and I was like, Emily, this is the message. And you can't see her, but I can. And she was doing this. Not that. Whatever it is you're gonna do, don't do that. That's not what you meant. I can see her. I'm talking to her. You can't see her. You know what? Listen, we are talking about transitions, and now is a wonderful time to transition into bringing Emily Arnold onto the screen.
Hey, no, you did that thing again where your mic was on for some reason, and so like there was lots of crashing, and then so I was making like, why are you crashing?
There's so many things happening here, Emily. We've got the magician partner, my magician spouse is magicianing, and my non-magician stepson is non-magicianing, but that non-magicianing also makes a lot of noise.
Yeah. Non-magicianing is definitely loud. But yes, the thing that you put in the thing, I didn't even see that until you just said it.
Well, I'm glad I didn't know. I was gonna, but we'll talk later about the whole nine. And guess what, friends? We're talking about transitions. This is on and off the topic. Let's chat about transitions. Yeah,
we're really good with segues and like starting the show. So I think we are the people to talk about transitions. Last week, I was in an airport and could hear about half of what was happening. My mom didn't know what the topic was when you were interviewing her. She was like, I thought we're still relinquishing control. And this week we have returned to our normal lives and started to get back into our routines. You went and you got your hair done.
You got my hair done.
It's so gorgeous.
Thanks.
You have on the books kind of like a lot of stuff in terms of transitioning like your image, right between your hair. And can I say on air that you have tattoo appointments?
I have tattoo appointments. They're supposed to be here and here later on in the month. We were going to get tattoos. We the Shannon, we're going to get tattoos like a week ago, but there was no AC in the shop. And this is Texas, where we're experiencing 100+ degree weather, and it was just like not gonna happen. But I'm really excited. I'm very excited to transition. So like, we can start. There are a couple of different things. One, as far as Emily's talking about, Emily and I were together in Austin, and now we're apart again. We came down for the journey. We had workshops, we had shows, and we had to come together to do that. And then we had to transition out of a week of shows and workshops, which was like, woo, thank you, Peggy. Shows and workshops. And it was it's been heck, right? It's been just like transitioning in the mind, transitioning in the body, getting back to not eating tacos every day. I'm guessing that you're not eating as
We actually, my husband took me out for tacos the other day, and I was like,
this is good. You haven't lost your taste for tacos. And also, yeah, transitioning in hair, transitioning in with the tattoos. So one of the things that I have been that we actually were talking about that you could barely hear was we being me and your mom. We're talking about these transitions from childhood to adulthood. And it's one of the things that I'm very much exploring right now and trying to see what things I left behind, right? As a child, like I was like, no, we are not going to deal with that, or we're not, that's too childish, or it's not fun, or it doesn't serve me, or people made fun of me, so I don't want it, whatever. And now transitioning from that to, wait a minute, what are the things that I really enjoyed in my childhood? What are those things that I really want to bring back and nurture, that even though maybe I was made fun of, or maybe other people didn't care too much about whatever it was I was trying to nurture as a kid, now I have the autonomy, right? Now I have the choice to play with that. And one of those things is my hair. I love this. I love My Little Ponies. If you can't tell, this color is lavender, and it's making me excited about life.
very cool. Yeah, there's we have, I mean, in general, body autonomy, right? Like doing what we want up here and doing what we want here on our skins, right? And being able to make those decisions now for ourselves, and not just in our appearance, but also the things that we do. We were texting about cartoon shows that we were watching. We were talking about that you just watched Steven Universe. You inspired me to rewatch it because I hadn't seen like the end of it. And all of those things are things that I think we're told as we're growing up. And I think this is one of those like middle school / early high school, like everyone experiences this kind of trauma of people being like, you're a baby.
Right.
Like that thing. Or because you want to do that thing. And I think it is like it's a cool marker of adulthood when we can look back on those and be like, yeah, but it doesn't matter. Like,
right.
It's fun. It's fun to indulge in those things that we love, especially when they're not hurting anybody or ourselves.
Right. There is a reclaiming of ourselves that we can do when we are looking back and seeing the things that inspired us, the things that made us joyful, the things that made us feel playful and exploratory. And even though those things were, who knows, somehow we dropped them, there is a reclaiming that happens when we can go back and just put them back into ourselves. There's also that same reclaiming when we look back and we say, no, that can stay back there. That can stay.
Yeah, my like middle school like fan fiction writing hobby, like that, you can stay over there.
Right.
I don't need that. I have Stardew Valley. I can make my own.
Like, what was I? Archie. I'm good, Archie. You can stay. I'm good.
Yeah, some things like Matthew can go back there. Yeah. And we don't. And I think we talked about this last time too, that's okay. It's totally okay to honor, like this is where I came from, this is what I did, and now that's not serving me anymore in the present. But some things are. Speaking of things that can honor us in the present, I don't know if you just heard my husband just walked in to give me tea because he's the best.
Oh, you have a little cat ear tea.
Little cat ear mug. Again, we are adults who can buy the things that we want. I think I actually got this as a Christmas present one time. And
It's lovely. I love
my
it.
favorite. But things like my I think we've talked before about how my spouse like fully embraces his nerd love of Star Wars and Legos and things. And whereas I, still don't like have a standard ringtone and
Right.
like all that. He has all of his ringtones are like Star Wars music, and like his text tone is R2D2, and his alarms are like Cantina songs. So like it's okay to like take these things that we love even though they're not like adulty and
Right.
normal. And
Right. Right.
embrace them.
There's like some of them are mainstream, some of them are not. The thing is, all right, so we're going to sort of close this off. And then I was remembering that I had said like the no's. What happens when we say no to transition? But let's keep that in our brain. So I might have, you said canteen. Oh, this mainstream, all of these things are things that if you have the power, if you have the energy, if you have the bravery to sit in that, to make your ringtones all Star Wars ringtones, to have your hair dyed purple, to come out in whatever coming out that is for you. When you do that, it does take bravery, but when you do that, other people gather around you, right? You inspire people to gather around you, and it can feel so alone, right? The actual transition from who you are right now, that space in between, like who you are right now to the little jump that you're going to make, can feel very isolating. But if you can swim to the other edge, if you can go ahead and jump and swim to the other edge, you'll find that there are so many people on the other side waiting for you. So many, and it doesn't matter what the thing is. I want to take this really quick onto stage, right?
Yeah.
When we transition from scene to scene, when we transition from one scene to another, it could be that you saw something in that one scene that's so funny to you, that tickles you so much, but no one else saw it, right?
Welcome to me in every montage style thing that I do every time. I always feel like I'm the only one who is tickled by this thing, and I'm sweeping it and
right. It's fun, and the thing is that if you have the bravery to bring it up in the next scene or to point out the thing, it can feel like, did anyone see that? Is it just me? Am I by myself? But the thing is, someone, whether it's in the audience or on stage or backstage or in the booth, someone is going to connect with you. And that is just the process of building community, which is our big theme. Right?
Yeah, and being able to kind of authentically embrace on stage and authentically embrace those kind of like pathways that you're following, like you said, builds connection. There could be someone on your team who also gets that weird pun that that you have, or that weird association. And then you have something very joyous and magical. But off stage too, when you're embracing a thing that you actually love, you form more authentic connections that way too, right? Like, when I was dating around, I literally got a Football for Dummies book because I was like, okay, I want to date some dudes and I feel like I need to understand football. And I still don't care about football. And I feel like anytime I would like try to pretend to be interested, it wasn't working. And so, it wasn't until, we find people who actually, embrace the same sorts of weird things that we form real connections. There are, even not necessarily like romantically, but like friendship wise, right? Like you and I embrace this thing that we're doing right now,
Yes.
which not all improvisers are down with, right?
No.
And if we if we weren't if we weren't brave enough, I think, to step up and say, like, I think improv is not just a performance, and I think it's more valuable to the world when used off stage, and I think we can explore all these things. We would be missing out on a lot of really cool opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah, we would. It would be more difficult to move forward because it's very simple not to say the thing that you believe in or think about and to stay in the group, right? Like, I guess we could have both just been like, we're just performers. Forget it. Every time I say, did you see that? It feels like that's going to help my marriage. That line pun, that line, that game, that pun game, that's going to help my marriage. And people are like, Shannon, not here.
That's weird. Just tell jokes.
Let's get out of here.
Let's just rehearse for like the games we're going to be playing in our upcoming shows and not worry about these life skills.
No. But my marriage. But okay, and then you can choose. You can choose to be like, you know what? You're right. We'll just rehearse. And then you lose the piece of you that is either that back piece, right? The piece that was your childhood, the piece that is authentically you. You start to lose it. And we don't want that. We don't want that in improv. Improv teaches us that we can be, not only can we be authentically ourselves, but other people will jump in to support you.
Yeah. I think we can tell a difference. I don't know if I can tell a difference when I'm in a scene and I don't feel connected to myself or to the things. And it is far than when I am, right. When I actually am approaching something in a way that like I understand what's happening and like I connect to that person in some way, that character in some way, or that emotion in some way, we build stronger scenes. I think everyone can tell. I think we can all tell the difference between someone who's like, what's that? What's that?
Mm-hmm.
And someone who's in it.
And who's in it. So, okay. So we have a little less than 15 minutes and I want to transition us into this idea of saying no to a transition and the repercussions that can happen. I feel like we're sort of talking about that anyway, this idea that, okay, if I say, maybe I can let go of, line games might help my marriage, just forget it. I'll just rehearse. What the repercussions are when there is a natural transition, whether that be a move, whether it be a tattoo, whether it be a job, a natural transition, that you are just like, you know what? No, I do not accept this transition. I'm never going to accept this transition. And I'm just going to move on like that transition has never happened or didn't happen. There's a ton of ways that affects us negatively, right?
Yeah. And I think that sort of thing, an all out ultimatum of like, nope, not dealing with that. I mean, I think that in general is not a healthy or realistic outlook because life keeps marching on.
Yes.
Thinking about like transitioning out of a job, if you get fired, you can't just be like, no. Actually, I would like to keep working here. Thank you.
Right.
Doesn't work like that. Or if someone's moving or yeah.
And I one of the things that comes to mind in jobs, right? And we'll try to like get this on the stage, off the stage aspect as well. But like in jobs, the idea that let's say you are a waitress, and that is what you do, and you consistently get fired, and you consistently are like, no, this is what I am supposed to do. I'm supposed to be a waitress, I wonder if there has to be some sort of balance. When do we get this spot where sometimes you're right? Sometimes you're like, maybe you were meant to be a waitress and you really do need to keep trucking and keep trying. Maybe they don't see the waitress that you are, you know. Sometimes that's correct, but sometimes you're not doing yourself a service. In it's time to switch gears. So when do we know, Emily? Let's talk about that. When do we
Yeah,
know?
I think that requires some self-reflection, right?
Mhm.
Because if we've talked before about in terms of like self, right? How we
Yes.
label ourselves. If we're like, I'm a waitress, or I'm an improviser, or I'm a boo boo boo.
Hmm.
Um, I think if we think about whatever word we label ourselves as like a certain very strict list of things, I think we're going to get stuck in loops where we keep striking out and things aren't going great and we don't feel good about ourselves while we're doing them, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to be a little flexible in
Hmm.
those labels, right? I'm a behavior analyst fresh out of grad school. That meant this for me, right? I was like, that means I am going to um, supervise this therapeutic structure in this model, and this is what I'm going to do. And over the past few years, that's been more flexible, right? I've been
Hmm.
able to take with me as I've transitioned through jobs and different roles, the parts that I love and the parts that I'm great at, and leave behind the stuff
Yeah.
that I'm not, the
Right.
stuff that drives me up a wall. Um, and it's not for me, whether because of the system or because of my strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
Um, and I think if I
That's
hadn't done that, yeah, I'd be stuck in a cycle of being
Yep.
miserable.
That speaks to some stuff that Luke was talking about, our drama therapist, just literally taking things with us and leaving things behind. What we take forward, what we leave. That's
Mm-hmm.
Tune into Luke. Go find Luke. And then the other thing that I wanted to touch on was the community part of this, right? That flexibility that you're talking about. When if you have labeled yourself, I am this and I am only this, and you haven't found flexibility, it is also much harder for you to find community, right? Like it's going to be harder for you to find a community that changes and evolves with you.
Yeah.
Period. The end. When we are, you said, things keep marching, right? Like life keeps marching past
Keep
you.
going.
So it's when you're on stage and you decide, no, I'm sticking to this thing. This is the thing. Literally, like scenes will pass you by. Like people will wipe your scene, they'll edit your scene, they will find ways to get your inflexible body off and keep your character off. And that mirrors life. When we are inflexible in life, the community around you will find a way to start pushing you out, right? Because people need flexibility. When we are what you're talking about, when we are flexible, when in the moment you can change, you're an octopus, right? You're an octopus. I am staying this octopus. And someone comes in and it's like, great. I feel like we've done this before, this scene, but like someone comes in and it's like, great, you're an octopus, but you work at a coffee shop. If your response to that is that's impossible, I'm underwater,
Octopi don't have jobs. Yeah.
then people are gonna pass you by. That scene's gonna get edited. But as soon as you can be flexible and like serve your latte with one arm and serve your cappuccino with another and wipe down tables with another arm, now we're creating a whole environment, a whole community where everyone else can play with you and you can play with everyone else.
And it opens up more avenues, right? Like you're again going back to inspiring people in this case, right? Then we create a world where like, oh, if an octopus can be a barista in this world, what else is true?
This is true.
And we can explore other fun worlds off the stage if we're like, oh, if you can do this in your life, what else can we do? And we get innovation and fun and play and exploration and all those good
Right.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I that's big for me. Like that's the idea that you really do open instead of close. We talk about that a lot.
Mhm.
I'm gonna, I like to drop something in the last 8
We
seconds
have
of what we
6 minutes. Bring it.
but I'm also wondering about, we were talking about bringing things with us, leaving stuff behind
Mhm.
as a choice, right? Specifically in our childhood or on stage, off stage. What about the times that transition follows us? What about the times that things that we want to leave behind just follow us, and it feels like maybe there's a cloud or like you can't get this thing off, and it feels like you can't transition. So instead of the idea of like,
Mm.
no, I'm not going to transition, this feeling of being stuck and you can't transition. How do we
Mm.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, because there are a lot of things that are, out of your control in that way, right? From uh, your family history or like any past like emotional trauma or uh, like learning history of like averse associations to things,
Mhm.
right? I would love to be able to eat a tomato, but as everyone here who has followed our stuff knows,
This is not a
cannot.
thing.
um, and so that is part of life, right? We can't necessarily control all of those things. We can't control other people, right?
No.
If you have a stubborn family member who is a certain way, or um, if you have kids and they are a certain way, or there are some things that, yeah, we can't control. And I think that can make it more difficult, but not necessarily impossible,
Mm-mm.
right?
No.
Um,
I feel like
Especially if we're
we are
taking small steps.
small steps. Yeah. And
Mhm.
small steps and facing things like the improv really teaches us to look at something, a character, a scene, an event, and quite physically and literally face it head on, face it, and start to deconstruct how we can move through it instead of
Yeah.
just completely ignoring it, right?
Right.
When we are encountering the barista octopus, this might be something that's very like challenging for us to look at. It's like, I've never seen this, I don't know what to do, it doesn't exist. You know what I want to wipe this scene and this character and ignore it. But that person maybe finds that fun. I'm going to come back as this barista octopus, right? So how do we face the barista octopus? How do we talk to it, see what it wants?
Mm.
Why is it there? Maybe, and then maybe let it play itself out, and then we can transition into the next thing. And I feel
Yeah,
like that
and I think seeing
mirrors.
how those things fit into the world now. You bring in a new scene, now you're in a library and the octopus comes back in with a coffee cart. How spending time to be like, okay, well, I guess we're stuck with this octopus for the rest of this set. Uh, but how do we fit this octopus
Ooh,
into our lives, into our scene, right? And
that
so similarly, we think of I just talked about my tomato aversion.
mhm.
That's not going back it's not going away anytime soon unless I go through like serious therapy that I don't really want to on that end. I have other things to tackle. But like, how do I fit my tomato aversion in a world where I love Italian food and Mexican food? Um,
Right, right.
and that is very smooth sauces and salsas. It's a texture thing.
Yeah.
Um, and or just asking for no tomatoes. And so like being able to marry those two things and not
Mhm.
say like, well, everything that is associated with this one thing that I can't with one thing that's holding me back or that I can't really manage, I just have to cut out of my life. No more Mexican, no more Italian would be just wild. That's not happening.
Right. I want to reiterate that. I want to just reiterate what you said, which is, how do we incorporate it instead of completely ignoring, well, and in this case, we're calling it the octopus, right? Instead of completely ignoring the octopus on stage that is like wiping a scene, off stage that's ignoring, instead of doing those things, how do we face it? How do we incorporate it? It's not going away. That's what you said. It's the octopus is not going away. Okay. Then how do we incorporate it into our lives so we can move forward through living, right?
Yeah. And sometimes that just means being creative and exploring things and, working to come up with your own tomato sauce recipe and chili recipes and finding restaurants that have blended salsas, which I didn't even know was a thing until recently.
Right.
And so
it's so good.
Yeah, we're
all
at
right.
30 minutes.
We have it. We said hi to Betsy. Thank you, Gus. Yes, we see you,
Hi, Charlotte. Someday maybe I'll give you my fanfic, Charlotte. We'll see. My husband's been trying to get it for years, so.
Wait a minute. I was ending it, but I just pushed a wrong button. I just pushed the button wrong. I didn't like it. So I wanted to say bye correctly.
Yep, let's go ahead and do that. Hey, everyone. So this has been Emily and
I'm Shannon, and we'll see you on and
off the stage. Goodbye.
Bye.